Oh, okay. I'm just cracking up because I'm cracking up. Okay.
Using fake social security numbers, and they did nothing. And I told them about my past. Nobody ever called me back. Nobody ever wanted to get any further information. So I felt that I was being stonewalled. And this is several years ago I'm talking about that I contacted the FBI. So nobody was interested in my story. So that's part of it. And then when he very first came on the scene, I scratched my head thinking, has he really changed his ways? You know, in my head thinking, you know, could this be the same guy that I remember? Because I remember this guy as low road, you know, guy. In other words,
No, he
you wouldn't
still
trust this
is.
guy to walk your dog. And I thought, really? You know, this guy, and so I'm kind of waiting to see what he's doing. And
Well, let me ask you this
you know,
question.
because it's not. In other words, I have gay friends. I don't care that he's gay. I don't care even that he smoked prolifically free-based cocaine in the 70s. I was sort of waiting to see what sort of adult he was.
When Larry Sinclair, publicized and had a press conference indicating he had had a homosexual relationship with Obama, and that they both smoked crack cocaine. This was before the election. No one really paid it any attention, or paid Larry any attention. I want to come back to that. But let me just ask another question. I think it's probably more important.
Sure.
I noticed you say with emphasis Barry Soetoro, and that would be the way you remember him because that's who he was, and we all know that that's who he was when he was in Hawaii. He goes to Occidental, and at some point between Occidental and the next time we see him, his name is Barack Obama.
Right. Which cracked me up. I thought was hilarious. So,
why?
And then that
Why do you
is
think it was
also
hilarious?
another indicator to me, like something shady here. Is like, what's really going on with this guy? And so, yeah. So it's etched in my memory. He'll always be Barry Soetoro to me.
I hear that.
And yeah. And as far as you know, I understand. I am familiar with the Larry Sinclair story. And I am here to tell the listening audience that Barry Soetoro was smoking a cocaine pipe long before Larry Sinclair.
Do you know, did you meet his mother, Stanley Ann, or did you meet Frank Marshall Davis?
I saw his mother around. I never...
Barry looks like his mother. Those kids don't look like the Obamas. I mean, they just don't. They don't look like Michelle. They don't look like Barry. Period.
She was never involved. I thought I saw the long brunette hair, and this is a sketchy memory, but no, I did not have any interaction with
Why do you
Stanley
think
Ann
his
Dunham.
grandmother? Why do you think his grandmother never publicly endorsed him, said anything at all about him? Why do you think that's so? I mean, you may not know the family. You probably didn't get a chance to know the family.
He's a shameful individual. I mean, she must have known what you and I know, and now your listening audience knows. This guy is not, I don't want to say foul words, you know, but this guy is like that kind of, you know, he's a scumbag kind of guy. You know what I mean?
Well,
he's not is. Something
he
to be proud of.
There's no doubt about that.
Right. Yeah. So I was familiar with the apartment building that his grandparents lived in, and that was off of Barakania. This is in Honolulu, Hawaii. Now, you know, Waikiki's just an area where us kids used to hang out, but I have had ties to Punahou through friends and things like that, and I'm familiar with the apartment building that his grandparents lived in. And it's just a simple walk up. It didn't look like these people had any kind of money whatsoever. And that was another thing that...
So I can't remember when this was. When was this? Okay. Was that back in 2012? All right. One more. Yeah, and I'm completely.
And Obama are obviously joined at the hip in some ways, and go ahead. This is really
That the nation stands in a state of peril. Our government can go into active duty and create a provisional government and run this country. Now, here's what happens. I'm going to use what's going on. Our government can go into active duty.
You know, this audio might be bad. I can hear it okay. I don't know how it's going to sound after it gets recorded, so just bear with me.
And create a provisional government and run this country. Now, here's what happens. I'm going to use what's going on today. Al Sharpton, as Jeff knows, I think you know, Al Sharpton has been sending through George Soros.
This is 2015. In case you're wondering why the Obamas and Clintons are still on stage and there hasn't been an election for a candidate, a fair election for a candidate for, I don't know, a decade with these people. Because they elected Bernie. But Hillary somehow, he showed up at the convention with the black eye and they gave him a big beach house somewhere. I figured out.
His money.
Mm-hmm.
He's been sending advanced groups of people into 5 or 6 major cities in this country. And you've been sending these paid people to go in, and they are there to harass and generate trouble. Now, what they're trying to get done is they're trying to get these people to riot, blacks. They're trying to get blacks to riot under this Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm. Agents provocateur. Yep.
It's 2015
They're
here.
paid activists, folks. Do not believe they're not. Now, if 5 of those communities fall apart at the same time, then here's what happens. Congress will call in joint sessions of the House and the Senate and the President, and they will vote. And they will vote that the nation stands in a state of peril. And so then the president will ask both houses to vote, and they will vote whether or not indeed we are in a state of crisis. If that happens, if enough congressmen and senators vote, and the president votes, then folks, our present form of government is called set aside. It is called set aside.
Pay attention, please, folks. This is the truth. It's not a joke.
It's not a joke. Now, when the present government is set aside, what happens then? The president becomes basically king. Number 2 is not the vice president. The vice president has no official capacity. Number 2 is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Your members of Congress and the Senate, they are sent back to their home states, to their districts, and they become the federal government in your district, in your state. Now, it is best described as a 16th century, kind of like kings, queens, dukes, earls, that type of...
We're that close to this. If both houses of Congress vote this.
And they didn't even have to, because we are there. You saw the dukes and earls, the Biden crime family has been taken over. They did something. There was some sort of dust up. Biden crime family out. Clinton, Obama, dukes and earls back in. And then they put this Emhoff chick up. You call her what she is. She's a Hindu that practiced Hinduism in Canada until age 20. I mean, she's not like a person that, neither was Obama. Neither of these people spent their formative years in the US hanging out. Well, okay, so Obama did high school in Hawaii, which sounded pretty close to what my upbringing was. Well, not really. Mia's sounded closer to what I did, where you just hang out somewhere, smoke cigarettes, basically. Maybe someone would give you a can of beer now and then, but that was about it. You know, and where you went and then you made something of yourself. You know, when you were in high school, you were kind of hanging out. You know, Obama's in Indonesia. He comes in, okay, he's on the basketball team, but he's hanging out with gay men, smoking coke and doing coke and snorting it, I assume, too. He had to start somewhere, I suppose. You have the Clintons, you know, they just were red. They were boomer red doper diaper babies or diaper doper babies or whatever. Doper diaper. I mean, Clinton spends, you know, see, the shit's been scrubbed off the internet. Clinton spent quite a bit of time in Russia when it was still the Soviet Union, which you just can't get into Russia. But, yeah, I don't know. As a United States citizen, going to school abroad, and then they said he was a Rhodes Scholar. He never was a Rhodes Scholar, but now that comes back up again. He was a draft dodger, but he really wasn't a draft dodger. Donald Trump was, because he had bone spurs. And by the way, even back in World War II, they discharged people and gave them disability for bunions. So that was a long time ago. But anyway, so you guys get the idea. I don't know why I'm posting this. It's just as little sound bites, you know. Yeah, we're in the middle of. This is the end, if you want my opinion. This is the beginning of the end. As far as Robert Kennedy Jr. goes, after going over his transcript, after reviewing his very uncomfortable, after receiving a rock star welcome, he was like I said, it was like he was, you know, getting cheered on by Satan. He hates Trump. He might work with him to do good for others in his mind. You know, maybe get a few chemicals out of the food. I mean, really, he's not going to be able to do anything more than that. It would be nice, but it ain't happening because America's over. I hate breaking it to you. You know. Let's see what else. He didn't endorse Trump. He's still running his campaign. He still wants you to vote for him if his name is on the ballot. People still will. The weirdest thing of all is he still thinks there is a chance he could win. Because it'll go into some special election and he'll come out and he'll be in the White House. The guy is fucking delusional. I think he's on medication. Isn't he on, wouldn't he be like, if he was a 15-year junkie? Let's do this. Here, let's do this. So, I mean, there are kings and queens and dukes and earls. That's it. We're in a NEO-FEUDALISTIC society. And you didn't even know it was happening. Because you're either too young to remember what it used to be like, or you're not very bright. All right. There was something I was going to look up. Wikipedia. Oh, come on. So on his Wikipedia page, and he's done a whole bunch of plastic surgery shit. I think he has implants in his pectorals. That's what it looks like. Okay, so conspiracy theorists. All right, I'm going to keep reading this because I just want to quickly tell you. After growing up in D.C., he graduated from Harvard University, obtained his Juris Doctor degree from the University of Virginia School of Law. He began his career as an assistant district attorney in New York City. In the mid-'80s, he joined two nonprofits focused on environmental tension. Wait a minute. Did they change his Wikipedia? Shit, man. Yeah, okay, hang on. So in 1982, Kennedy was sworn in as an assistant DA for Manhattan after failing the New York bar exam. He resigned in July 1983. Any nepotism there? So he was sworn in 82, couldn't pass the exam, and then he resigned. Probably he was going to be fired. That September, he was charged with heroin possession in Rapid City, South Dakota. What an odd place to be charged with heroin. No, because I was there before my accident. I was supposed to be there last year and this year, but I'm not. But well, if you drive further east is where the Badlands are, and I was hiking around out there, as you know, or maybe not, in 2022. What an odd place. What would you be doing in Rapid City? Hanging out in the frickin' Black Hills, which is pretty damn cool. And in the 80s, now I was there hanging out, camping and shit about 10 years after that, and it was fucking cool. It was extremely cool then. Not very touched. They began to, South Dakota, build shitloads of hotels and turned it into a little bit more of a touristy thing. But it was pretty rustic. He pleaded guilty to a single felony charge of possession of heroin in February 84, whereupon he was sentenced to 2 years probation and community service. Now, normally, if you're charged with heroin possession in Rapid City, South Dakota, aren't you kind of going to prison? So he went back to court February of 84, where he was sentenced to 2 years probation and community service. He originally faced a potential sentence of 2 years in prison. Yeah. So what happened? Because his name, right? After his arrest, he entered a drug treatment center to satisfy one of the conditions of his probation. He worked as a volunteer for the Natural Resources Defense Council and was required to attend regular drug rehab sessions. This ended his 14 years as a heroin user starting at age 15. He'd also used cocaine during that period. Wow. So when did his addiction end? In 83 or in 84? Or did it really end? Because a lot of times people say, yeah, no, I'm not doing, anymore. I'm not using, but they really are. So that's my question. So I've got to run. I spent too much time on this. But I mean, that's the kind of person he is. So I don't know. I don't think he's very stable. Like does he like shoot up and say, yeah, we can still win? I, I, oh,